besides the enjoyment factor of doing it in the progress, like why do it? I think a big part of it obviously is inherently, I think, with anybody who tries to run that distance, and it's the same if you run a marathon or any kind of distance, is you're trying to prove something to yourself. That is where it started. 2 weeks ago, that probably changed a little bit. I'm going to talk to the parish council. Come on.
Come on. Hey. Come on, Dusty. This way.
Come in. I'm Charlie Kay. I'm 29 and I've always lived in Yorkshire. Welcome to my humble abode. I kind of grew up in North Yorkshire, moved to near Wetherby when I was about 8, and then I've been here kind of since. So these are my all-time favourites. I bought a pair during lockdown and I wore them into the absolute ground. I like ripped holes in the front of them, all sorts, and kind of didn't want to throw them away. Everything that I tried to do is always being outside, so obviously like running is a big aspect of that, but there's also climbing and hiking or cycling, mountain biking. Basically anything that is outdoors, I'll tend to enjoy.
I think the only sport that I've found that Charlie won't do is horse riding, but I feel like I could still encourage him to do it if I really wanted to.
So me and Evie met, I don't know whether I'm meant to even say this, so me and Evie met on a dating app. I'm sure Evie will tell everybody that she offered me a couple of dates where she was free to go and do something, expecting me to probably say just one of them. But I basically just said, yeah, let's chaw 3. And I think one of our first dates was we drove to the Lake District and ran Fairfield Horseshoe. I mean, there's so many aspects to enjoying running, I think. There's obviously like the physical aspect of staying healthy, I think, is a huge thing. I don't think there's many people that will argue that running isn't one of the best ways to do that. There's all the talk about kind of runner's high afterwards, and there is that, sometimes you go out and run and push yourself to the kind of limits, and in the moment it's awful, and then afterwards there is that high. And I think that some of it inevitably is occasionally that, but I think for me, running, it really gives me time to clear my head. I guess there's some like kind of peace to it. Quite often when I go road running, there's all the, there's road noise, there's people around, I end up running with headphones in, stuff like that, whereas I never really feel that need when I'm out on the fells. It's something that I just really enjoy, just to kind of clear my own head. So I guess like in that sense, that for me is more about the mental benefits that I get from running than the physical, which I think is probably what keeps me coming back. I can quite often tell if I haven't been running very much, like I can start to get probably more stressed than anything, and that kind of comes out in all different ways.
I've known of Charlie. We've lived in the same village for 20 plus years. Became friends early on in our 20s, and he's now one of my best mates. He's one of the kindest people you'd ever meet. He'd do absolutely anything for his friends. He's quiet and reserved when you first meet him, but once he comes out of his shell, he's one of the best people you can be around and have in your friendship group.
I would say he's also very caring, supportive, understanding, funny. But I know that with all that, he also has this other side of him, like doing this ultra marathon. He's got a lot of drive and passion for things. He will achieve what he wants.
Well, he's so humble. Like, he doesn't really know how great he is. He's so funny. He's just great laughs. Such a kind person. He's just a great human being.
Just in his everyday life, he's just a get up and go kind of person. Like, he's never not doing anything. He's not one to sit about, and that's something I definitely admire about him for sure.
He is very outdoorsy, very outgoing in that regard. He kind of starts off by really dragging me into a lot of his hobbies. So whether it be mountain biking, a lot of hiking, climbing, things like that, he likes to get involved with lots of different things. He's also a brave person, I would say. And some of the stuff that we did when we were younger, for sure, was driven more from the bravery on his end and the stupidity on mine. But I would say that's definitely something he's carried through into his adult life, and it's something that means that he goes after these different challenges and stretches himself, which, yeah, I think is really admirable. When Charlie first told me he was doing an ultramarathon, I at first didn't really doubt that it was something that he'd be able to achieve, but I also hadn't really looked in to find out what an ultramarathon actually is. And then when I did look at the size of the task he was undertaking and the elevation he was going to be running up, I did think this is a huge endeavour.
So the ultra that I signed up to was Lakes in a Day, which is in October, and it's a 50-mile ultra, 4,000 ascent, runs from the north of the Lake District at Colbeck to the south at Cartmel. Goes across all the terrain the Lake District pretty much has. I signed up to it I guess because the Lake District is where probably I've had some of my best memories outdoors. You know, hiking with friends, running, Fairfield Horseshoe. The second date with Evie, you know, I think some of my best memories that I have doing stuff that I enjoy is in the lake, so that's why I really wanted to do it. I'd like to try and achieve it in kind of 13 hours, I think is doable. But yeah, I think weather probably plays a huge factor in all of this, as is the way when you kind of go over fells, so.
As running distances get further and further, there's more elements that have to be thought about, and the smaller things multiply and get more serious. So there's like injuries and stuff like that maybe wouldn't present themselves in a 5k run become potentially serious problems the further you go.
An ultramarathon, or the one that Charlie's doing, is just under double the marathon distance. It's past kind of giving your afternoon up to really tire yourself out, use any kind of stores you've got. It's really learning how to keep running for the best part of a day, and that just takes like another level of fitness and determination, and I think a lot of it is in your head as well.
Once you start getting into ultra territory, it's really a mental effort. Like, your body's screaming for you to stop, but you've got to override that and just keep pushing.
Really being able to use whatever motivation you've got to keep going.
With any person, their mother is a huge part of their life, and obviously because Shelley has passed away recently, quite suddenly, in quite a shocking situation, obviously Shelley means a huge amount to him, and you know that because they had such a close relationship, and it was his mum, so it is devastating and heartbreaking to see that she's not here anymore.
Shelley passing, it's just a massive thing that you don't want any of your friends to go through.
Definitely going to be there at the back of his mind when he's running the ultra. I think it's another form of motivation. I think Charlie's just such a family-orientated person, and I think this will give him that extra little bit of drive of being, my mum knew about this and I'm just going to do it with my mum at the back of my head. And I think, that will be an added factor to say that she's there with him.
We always adored her. We'd always go around and she was always so welcoming and lovely to everybody. And it was just such a lovely household to go into, and it was always so warm and nice. And so, it's just a huge loss for sure. I really don't know how how he gets through it, to be honest.
I think there's probably an extra little bit of motivation to it now of wanting to do it for, not just for me, but for her, and also to try and raise some money for a charity that looks into the kind of disease that she suffered from. And I think that in those tough moments, I think A, puts it into perspective, but B, makes those tough moments way, way easier. The motivation of it is for me, but also for her. Oh, do not, hang on. No. What run am I going to do today?
What route are you going to do?
I'm thinking down through Collingham and then just along the river. And it's just started chucking it down. Wait, watch. Top Gear, Grand Tour. Canage à Trois.
Right, have a good run.
Right, okay. I fear this is going to be a wet one. Should probably get a jacket. I don't necessarily have a training plan.
I think Charlie's pretty chilled, and I don't know if he's too chilled at the moment.
I'm not sure it's necessarily the best idea not to go in with a training plan.
He's not really got a plan.
I think the biggest challenge in the run-up will definitely be to tailor the training.
You know, I could do all the training around here, and yeah, I could do 50 miles, I could do 60 miles, 70 miles, let's say. But when you add the 4,000 meters on top of that, it's different.
Where we live, it's pretty much pan flat. We are planning a few trips to the lakes and just to local areas with some good inclines so that he can practice those uphills, which will prep the quads.
If I was to train for this solo, I think would be really hard. Yeah, I want to, wanting to spend as much time as possible with friends and training for it. So probably spend a lot of time with Evie running, Ollie, Harvey, and hopefully Dusty.
What does Evie mean to you?
Evie means a lot. Yeah, I think, sorry, I was just thinking, I think it was like quite a big question. She means a lot, and quite quickly was a huge part of my life. Inherently, sometimes I second guess myself, and I'm not the most kind of inwardly or outwardly confident person. But I think Evie helps with that in a sense that she's so supportive of everything that I do and what I'm trying to achieve, kind of thing. I think she helps me kind of believe in what I'm doing, I guess, and that applies to everything. And she helps me recognize what I actually am doing, and not being my own harshest critic or being too critical of myself. But yeah, besides that, I guess she's just, a best friend. Hey. Well, I said to you the other day that it doesn't feel like I have a pointless run anymore. Do you know what I mean? Where you just go out and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do that loop, and I think it's about 9K, or, I think every run has a focus, or let's say behind it, or a reason why you're doing it, which is nice. It's starting to feel quite solid, definitely feeling like my legs are getting a bit stronger. I'm getting more used to it. But inevitably, I think as you get closer and closer, it starts to feel a little bit more nerve-wracking. I think that's probably, yeah. I think it's okay, now I've got to, put my money where my mouth is. The morning of the race was weirdly peaceful and calm, but underlying in the air there was, I think, a lot of apprehension, with everyone knowing what was to come for the rest of the race. As I was stood on the start line, I was just thinking about all the reasons why I wanted to do it. Before I knew it, he was counting down from 5 and we were off, so. I mean, when it gets really hard, like, I think but you're talking to yourself in your head, just being like, that it's like the devil's on the shoulder saying, stop, you don't need to do it. But I think some element in me is just, it's like a proving myself wrong. You know, you have so much of your mind and your body that's telling you to kind of stop, that I think quite often mentally I want to kind of prove I don't need to listen to that. And then I think some of it is like perspective. If you have like a good perspective on it, like really it's not, you know, so you're running a 5k, like 20 minutes of struggle, 20 minutes of pain isn't too much.
There's a lot of incline in the race and it's going to be really challenging for a first ultra. There's a lot that could happen, you just don't know. It's such an unpredictable environment. And with it being in October, it could be really cold. With the trails, you don't know if they might be hidden. So if there's no one around him, then there's a possibility he could get lost. And also, just downhills can be brutal. Most people think going uphill is worse, but downhill can really damage your knees, and he has suffered with his knees in the past, so it could put quite a lot of pressure on them.
So I definitely hit a bit of the low point going from Clough Head across to Helvellyn. The kind of weather really turned at that point, so it was really hard, being buffeted by the wind, the cold, at various points, whether it was escaping off or getting to Ambleside and people just being too cold or something like that. But there was a lot of people who DNF'd during that period. More than once, and I'm probably not the only person at that time. I found myself thinking, oh, like, what am I doing? When the weather was so bad, I think that was probably quite a lot of people who were feeling the same. Certainly some low points and some questions at that time. My dad has this saying, and it kind of comes from his dad. My granddad landed on D-Day, and it was a horror, probably one of the toughest things that a lot of people of that generation did was go to war and land on D-Day and kind of do all these things. And my dad has the saying of, this isn't my D-Day, this isn't comparable. He has it for things that he finds tough or he thinks are going to be tricky or whatever. I guess it's like having something in your mind that you hold on to that puts things into perspective again. And I think that's how you push through, like, the difficult bits, is a good grasp on perspective, Yeah.
He's got a mental fortitude that means he can just keep plugging away. Like, even if he's hurting, he'll walk it, he'll crawl it. I think he's set on it. I think he'll definitely do it.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Charlie's going to do this. I'm going to be so proud of him when he crosses that finish line.
He's one of those people who, if he puts his mind to it, he'll achieve it, and I have every faith in him that he will.
He's putting in a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and he's got a lot of motivation there behind why he wants to complete it as well.
I will be ridiculously, incredibly proud when he finishes the race. It's a huge distance. It's going to really take out of him. I hope he's booked the next day out of work. When I see him crossing the line, it's going to be amazing. I hope he's as proud of himself as I will be. There will be tears, I'm sure.
So, Charlie K, what's next?
What's next?